One of, if not the most iconic character in cinema history, was the notorious Mafia boss, Don Vito Corleone. From, of course, without exaggerating, the greatest film in history, The Godfather. Based on the incredible novel by Mario Puzo, this character and story was brought to life by one of the greatest directors of all time, the one and only Francis Ford Coppola. But what we wanted to focus on in this video is the character Don Vito Corleone. Once again, played by one of the greatest actors of all time, Marlon Brando. With the help of Mario Puzo, Francis Coppola, and of course Marlon Brando, they were able to bring this character to life, and against all odds, have an enormous impact not just on cinema and storytelling, but even onto real life. The character of Vito Corleone had such an impact that the real-life mobsters and gangsters all wanted to imitate or were inspired to carry themselves similar to how Vito Corleone did. They were in awe of Vito from how he commanded respect to his ability to read and play people to his advantage. What's interesting is that the character of Vito, although mostly fictional, was actually inspired by real-life mobsters. He shares many similarities with these legendary mobsters. For example, Brando imitated the voice of Frank Costello. His story and rise was inspired by a combination of Lucky Luciano, Carlo Gambino, Joe Bonanno, just to name a few. But a question that we constantly receive is who is the real Godfather, not in terms of the character per se, but the idea of there being a single most powerful and influential mafia don of all time. And that's what we'll uncover in this mini-series. If there is this real-life equivalent, who is it really, not just who we all consider as the Godfather, but who for certain is this character? You all have been asking for something definitive. That's exactly what we will give you. We will firstly analyze and uncover if such an individual existed, and if this individual was as powerful, honorable and brilliant as Vito, or is this idea of the noble outlaw just completely false? Let's find out. In this video we will firstly break down Vito's life and mention the major events. Vito Andolini, later known as Vito Corleone, was born on April 29, 1887, in the small Sicilian village of Corleone. In 1901, his father was murdered by a Sicilian mafia boss because he refused to pay tribute to him. His older brother swore revenge, but was himself taken out soon after, during the funeral procession for his father. Desperate, Vito's mother took Vito to see this mafia chieftain herself, to beg for her last son's life. When she went to see Don Ciccio, she begged for forgiveness, but the Don refused, reasoning that the younger boy Vito may be harmless now, but would also seek revenge as an adult.
No.
Upon Don Ciccio's refusal, Signora Andolini put a knife to his throat, giving Vito a chance to escape. Moments later, as Vito watched, his mother was shot dead by one of Ciccio's bodyguards. Later that night, he was smuggled away with the help of sympathetic neighbors, fleeing Sicily to seek refuge in America. Unable to speak English, he was renamed on Ellis Island as Vito Corleone. When the clerk saw the tag pinned to his clothes, was labeled Vito Andolini from Corleone. Vito was later taken in by the Abbandando family in New York, and he befriended the family's son Ginko Abbandando, who became like a brother to him. When he was 18, Vito married a Sicilian woman named Carmela, and they started a family. Vito began making an honest living at Abbandando's grocery store on 9th Avenue. However, he later lost the job after an intimidated Signor Abbandando was forced to employ the nephew of Don Fanucci, the neighborhood boss. Vito was forced to take up an unstable job doing backbreaking labor for the railroads, but he also lost this job during a mass layoff. Vito soon found himself in difficult circumstances. However, Vito's money troubles were soon solved. One night, a neighbor of Vito's, Peter Clemenza, asks him to hide a stash of guns for him. He later repays the favor by taking him to a fancy apartment where they commit their first crime together, stealing an expensive rug. They soon became friends and joined by a friend of Clemenza's named Salvatore Tessio. The three soon learned to survive and prosper through petty crime and performing favors in return for loyalty. The three made good money by hijacking garment trucks, Vito being vital to these hijackings since he was one of the few people in Manhattan's Little Italy at the time that knew how to drive a truck. By 1917 they were making a substantial amount of money, and so attracted the attention of Don Fanucci, who wanted a piece. However, rather than paying up, Vito doesn't take Clemenza's or Tessio's advice, and decided that Fanucci wasn't even worth the money he was asking for. And so, Vito takes out Fanucci and replaces him as the new Don of the neighborhood. With the profits he was gaining, Vito started an olive oil importation business with his old friend Jinko Abondando. The company eventually became the biggest olive oil importer in the nation, thanks to Vito's reasoning with store owners. While an excellent moneymaker in its own right, in the later years he used it as a legal front for his growing organized crime syndicate, while amassing a fortune with its illegal operations, which started during Prohibition, where he used his olive oil trucks to smuggle alcohol in from Canada. Vito soon started to protect small neighborhood businesses, learning early on the value of political protection. There was one moment that certified Vito's position, and had finally established the Corleone family as one of the most powerful families in the Mafia world. This was the event known as the Olive Oil War. The Olive Oil War was the biggest conflict the criminal world had ever seen. It was the conflict in which Vito went head-to-head against the most powerful Mafia boss at the time, known as Salvatore Maranzano. During this battle, Vito would prove himself as the most capable and cunning Don they had ever went up against, humiliating Maranzano and whoever doubted him, in which all faced a similar ending. Vito had now built a name for himself across the country, and now needed to secure his position to prosper. After the Olive Oil War had come to a conclusion, Vito began trying to establish some sort of order in the criminal underworld, as he knew that constant fighting was bad for business and attracted too much unwanted attention. Therefore, after spending a year negotiating with the other major bosses and organization, and taking out all those that opposed him or didn't fit in his vision, were taken out, he finally was able to reach an agreement with the other criminal empires and establish the Commission. The Commission was established to be the ruling body of the Mafia in the United States. It was to be used as an effective way to negotiate, coordinate different aspects of the criminal underworld. It was where the heads of the criminal organizations throughout the country would meet to settle their differences in order to avoid any unnecessary hostilities. Its main aim was to ensure that the families could all operate their businesses at the same time, maximizing their profits, and even helping each other prosper in most cases. And so, by this time, Vito was now the head of the Commission and essentially the most powerful boss in the entire country, continuously expanding his empire and influence for many years to come. He surrounded himself with trustworthy and capable people that would help him to maintain and grow the empire. Years later, in 1945, Vito was offered to partner up with Virgil Sollozzo in the new and growing narcotics trade. However, he refused as it went against his principles and primarily knew that it would lead to their downfall.
But they wouldn't be friendly very long if they knew my business was drugs instead of gambling, which they regard as a harmless vice, but drugs is a dirty business. Because I believe this drug business is going to destroy us in the years to come.
Oh, are you telling me that the Italians guarantee our investment?
Wait a minute. I have a sentimental weakness for my children, and I've spoiled them, as you can see. They talk when they should listen.
But after a fatal mistake by Sonny, there was an assassination attempt made on the Don, in which put him out of action for a long while. His eldest son Santino took over the family, and I'm sure you all remember very well what happened next. So after Sonny was taken out, and the Corleone Empire was without a leader, the family was in its worst position ever. Vito mustered what strength he had left to put things back into order. His first move, establishing a truce with the other families, to give him time to bring back Michael, and rebuild what they had lost. And after meticulously arranging for his son Michael to return from Sicily, he begins to prepare Michael to take over the family. By 1954, he retires as Don, however, acts as Michael's consigliere, helping Michael make the transition to Don and plan for their return to the top. A year later, in 1955, Vito passes away in the Corleone family compound from natural causes, a rarity for people in his position.
Work my whole life, I don't apologize to take care of my family. And I refused to be a fool. Dancing on the string held by all those big shots.
Although Vito's power began to decline in his later years, he still pretty much single-handedly built an empire from absolutely nothing, had organized and structured a billion-dollar empire, and had accomplished something no one had thought was possible. He had managed to organize crime. All these events have real-life parallels, and as you will see in the next video, they all have an enormous impact on everyone involved. We are looking forward to start this new mini-series, and you can expect a lot more coming soon. Make sure to watch these videos for more details after this one. This is important as this will highlight the parallels with his real-life counterparts. There are so many stories, intricate facts and details that surround this iconic film, in which we cover on this channel. Thank you for joining the Culture Mafia.